I'm really looking forward here to what's coming up in August. I think that the reunion of Salvation Air Force after 24 years of wandering around in the musical desert of Hiatus Land, I think it's going to be really an exciting time. I think it's really interesting as well is that we're being booked at a blues festival. But in point of fact, we do very few things that are very bluesy at all. Most of our stuff that we did, particularly up stuff, was very rocky. Although, blues based, I suppose, like all rock and roll. But it's hardly what I would call traditional blues at all. I think we're going to stand out. I'm sure that there will be people that will be standing at the stage. We may even have our own mosh pit. I'd love to see Donnie do some body surfing out across the front. He can toss the guitar to me. Great thing to see. Oh, I think that not only the people that we'll have playing with us, people like Ron and Chuck, and just our family members that will be around. I think it's going to be great to see a lot of our old fans as well. I'm sure that we'll have people come up and be waving at us, and we'll probably have people that are now grandparents. Oh my God, can you imagine we're going to have a grandmother standing out in the second row throwing her brassiere at us? Oh, well, maybe not that. Well, I have got a Fender Precision. It's actually a hot rod Precision, part of the Texas series. It's a hybrid between a jazz and a precision. It's a precision neck actually built on a jazz scale. It's got an electronic preamp in it with parametric EQ. It's one of the fastest basses I've ever played. And I play D'Addario light round wound strings on it. So it's got a very funky, very snappy, very driving, punchy sound. Matter of fact, interesting point on that. About 2 weeks ago, I played at a church in Anacortes, Washington. The guy who was running sound came up to me after we were done playing and wanted to know if he could buy my bass because it was the punchiest sounding bass he'd ever run through his board. I asked him if he had $5,000 in his pocket. He said no. That was the end of the conversation. I also use, I don't actually play through a standard bass amplifier anymore. It depends on the venue and what's going on, but I don't actually own a bass amp, so I don't have any of that to drag around. But I do have a Sanzan stomp box that I bring with me everywhere. And that has a balanced as well as unbalanced in and out. So I can use that going into any board, and I will use that even in the case of like we're playing here at SAF, taking the output of that going into a bass amp. I think what's really interesting, I've gone back and listened to a lot of our songs over the decade of the 70s into the 80s. When I'm talking about ours, I'm talking about Salvation Air Force material. And a lot of it, and particularly some of the stuff that we're going to be doing here in a couple of weeks, I think is fairly timeless, and I think it's bridged the gap of the last 3 decades very well. Of course, some of the things we're doing is, from a musical standpoint, are a little bit more today sounding than they were back in the 70s when we first did them. But I think all in all, I think that much of the material has weathered the time very well, and I'm very proud and pleased to be able to play it. Oh, that's an interesting one. There have been a lot of changes in the last 3 decades that we've witnessed. To kind of sum them up in just a few words, to make our video file small and easy for people to download on dial-up. I would say that it's very difficult for me to differentiate the changes that have happened in our culture over the last 30 years and the natural aging and maturing process that's happened with me in the last 30 years. So looking at the world through my eyes, from a young man in the 20s to a way old man now in the 21st century, I would say that the things that fundamentally are core to human nature have changed very little. I think there's circumstances in and around the world. Certainly political situations have changed. Much of our own economic situation, both personal and nationally, have changed over the past 30 years. But I think fundamentally, people are still the same people, and I think that they have the same needs. I think that now that I am a little older, I'm more sensitive to being able to look at people and help them articulate what it is that their real needs are, try to figure out what those expectations are, and try to come up with a plan to help meet them. And I think that what we're doing here at Salvation Air Force is a great thing. I don't have any delusions of grandeur that we're going to have any significant world-changing events as a result of our concert. But I do think there's going to be a renewed interest in what we had to say back then and the way that we had to say it, and compared with the way that we're going to say it now. Well, since, for the most part, I've been involved in technology. Started off primarily in the audio side, moved into video, and I've been in video in one form or another for about the last 10, 15 years. Right at this exact moment, I'm working for a company that's providing products and services into the television broadcast space. I'm spending a fair amount of time on the road, a lot of time on the road, as a matter of fact, most of it being in New York. So that's been one of the most significant changes for me is in the last several months is spending so much time in New York City. And like I've always say whenever I have the opportunity to talk about that, it's not Kansas anymore, Dorothy. It is quite the city. It's substantive change from what we used to out here on the West Coast. But it's a great learning experience for me, and I'm really quite enjoying it. But when they come to, I can't speak for what they're going to experience when they see the other artists, but when they come to see us, I think they should have the expectation of seeing people that are right into what they're doing. It'll be true, honest, emotional playing from everybody who will be involved. I think, as I said before, that the music, even though it is 30 years old in some points, is still relevant to today. I think we will do a reasonable job of putting together a performance that people enjoy to watch and listen to. And I think that a good time will be had by all. Well, since this is focused towards Salvation Air Force and our upcoming reunion event on August 21st, I think that it's really important for anyone who sees this or happens to the opportunity to hear this to be sure to be there. Unfortunately, I don't have all the technical details of the who, what, when, and where. You'll have to find out here on the website. But I do know that it's in Chilliwack. I know it's Saturday, the 21st of August. And I think it's important for all of our friends and loved ones to come. And like I said, we'll all have a good time. Hopefully the weather will still be good. And we can all get a chance to sing, have some fun. Probably eat a barnyard hot dog and have some other fun besides just listening to music.
Jesus is the Savior. He will save your soul from sin. Jesus is the Savior. He will heal you from within. Jesus will save you if you give yourself to Him.